Hello everyone, welcome to our today's lesson, BJL3107, Corporate Communication. I am Faith Njeri Ngure. To start with, we'll try to look at what is corporate and what is corporate communication, and some of the factors that influences corporate communication in terms of the philosophy and also the organizational culture. And we'll start by trying to, lay a foundation and try to understand what is corporate and what is communication. And a corporate is just an organization or a business that is licensed by the government to continue with its operation as far as maybe the manufacturing is concerned, or even maybe sales of products and also services. And you find that these organizations have been licensed by the government, or they have been allowed to continue existing by the government. But when it comes to communication, communication is just sharing of information from the organization to its target audience. And therefore, corporate communication is a practice of disseminating information to key stakeholders of an organization, a company, or even a corporation. And as I have said that communication that is done by organization, the organization shares the information with the key stakeholders or the stakeholders of the organization. And you find that this communication is aimed at, airing the information of the organization, or airing the information within the organization, or even outside the organization. The organization or even a company may decide to speak or to communicate with the employees, or to information concerning a given cause or even a given activity to the employees. They may decide to communicate with the external publics, who are the customers, who are the limiters, the enablers, or even the media. And therefore we are saying that the practice of disseminating information by organization to its key stakeholders or to its key publics, who can be either internal or even external publics. And you find that corporate communication is taken as a management function. It cannot be done by just anyone in the organization, and you find that they are chosen stakeholders, or they are chosen persona who are mandated with that function of communicating to the public. Not everyone in an organization can speak to the employees. Not everyone can, air information that is considered very crucial and sensitive to employees, and therefore find that there are people who are mandated with doing this. That when it comes to the organogram of the organization, or the structure of the organization, you find that most of the corporate communication officer, or those who are mandated with the task of communicating to the internal publics and also the external publics, they are in the management when it comes even to maybe the structure, the hierarchy of activities in the organization. And you find that as far as we're talking about corporate communication, it is tasked with reputation and image. You are communicating in order to ensure that the company has good image, or it has good reputation, or the image and the reputation remains intact for its survival. This goes without saying that if the reputation of an organization, or even the organization, is not what people think, not intact, you find it's very hard for the organization to continue thriving or to continue growing in the society. And we have seen organizations that have their reputation has been damaged. They are really taking time to regain their reputations. Once a reputation is lost, gaining it back takes a lot of time. And therefore you find that the corporate communication officers, they'll communicate, or they'll ensure that the communication that is done is for the purposes of ensuring that the image and the reputation of the organizations remains intact, and there is that mutual relationship between the organization and its publics. And you find that these groups, or the group of people, or the publics, are sustained through proper communication. How will you continue sustaining these customers? How will you continue sustaining these employees? How will you continue sustaining these sponsors of the organization? How will you continue, sustaining these producers, or even the financiers of the organization, or even the suppliers suppliers who are supplying you with the raw materials, you find that they can only be sustained via proper communication. It doesn't have to be which kind of communication. Maybe it's just a proposal that you have done. Maybe it's just, you really want to communicate your feedback with regard to the supply that was done by supply. You find in order to sustain the public, you'll have to ensure there is a proper communication techniques, and the communication is done efficiently and effectively. And you find that corporate communication is premised on the belief that a company's survival is dependent on the kind of communication that goes in and out. And that's true. If negative communication gets out to the sponsors, if negative communication goes out to the employees, you find that the company's survival, it's at a threat, because negative communication will lead to maybe reputational damage, or people will stop being loyal to the organization. And you find that therefore every communication touching on the company's operations is very crucial. And you find that corporate communication is used to ensure that the organization manages its reputation and builds its strong image and identity. An organization can only communicate in order for it to manage its reputation, to build its strong image, and also the identity. And you find that it's important for organization to keep tension down within an organization, especially in a relationship to smooth the running of department, employees, and also legal and policy issues. And for the smooth running of employees, information must be shared. For smooth running of departments, information must be shared. For smooth or even following up on the legal issues and policy issues that must be there, that are there, communication must be done. And therefore, there is need to communicate well and professionally with various target audience or with various publics in order to ensure that at the end of it all, the organization is surviving very well, and they start mutual understanding between the publics and also the organization. And you find that the corporate communication officer can use different channels of communication, or they can use different tools for the purposes of communication. They may use the emails, they may use the brochures, they may use the pamphlets, they may call even for the corporate social responsibilities activities. They may even have maybe exhibition for the purposes of communicating to the public. And therefore you find that different tools of communication or different tools of PR can be used for the purposes of communication. And you find that corporate communication performs several functions with distinct roles, tools, and techniques. And number one is corporate advertising and advocacy. The institution advertising, where organization advertises itself. You find that at the end of it all, it's the work of the corporate communication department. Also corporate identity and image. People don't know about the organization in terms of the image, how people think of or how people view an organization outside. It's the work of the corporate communication department. They'll even, they'll look even for to ensure for wearing the corporate colors are well visible in terms of how people conduct themselves, in terms of the artifacts. How do the employees wear on Fridays? How do they dress themselves on Monday? How do they dress themselves on Friday? And therefore you find that at the end of it all, it's the corporate communication department. And mark you or remind you that at the end of it all, that these communication can either be verbally or non-verbal. Whether it's done in a written form, whether it's the artifacts or the tangible things that can be seen, you find that at the end of it all, it's all about identity and image. And that's how we are able to identify an organization based on the corporate color, like Safaricom, and we are able to differentiate it from Telcom or even Airtel. You find also there is the media relations. It's the work of the corporate communication department to liaise with the media, when there are issues, when there are activities, when they want maybe the media to come and cover a given event. It's the work of the corporate communication department. Also the corporate social responsibility responsibility, which are activities that touches on giving back to the community. It's the work of corporate communication department to organize for those CSRs, or those activities that are aimed at touching on the welfare of the society. Also, marketing communication. And when you're talking of marketing communication, it's any communication that is intended to, to inform the public, educate, or even warn the public about the product, or where they can get the product in terms of the place, in terms of the promotion activities that are there, and also apart from that, in terms of the prices of the product. And therefore, such communication that communicates about a product. For example, maybe an institution of higher learning, they have different courses. Apart from the courses, there is a cost for each and every program. You find that it's the work of the corporate communication department to know on how to market the institution, such an institution, in terms of the programs, in terms of the entry levels, in terms of the cost. It's the work of the marketing department. And you find that marketing can be done, using different channels of communication, or even using the personal selling, where you go meeting people face to face and you market your organization, or even you market the programs that are there in the organization. Also, there is the internal affairs, or even internal communication, the communication that are done internally to the employees, or to the key publics, the internal publics. Also, there is the investor relations, maybe how to deal with the investors, the sponsors, or even the financiers. It's the work of the corporate communication officers who ensure that at the end of it all, information is flowing from the organization to these investors concerning the milestones that have been there in the organization. Also, the public and the government affairs, and this touches on any form of communication that is aimed at dealing with the government, or the relationship between the government and the institution. You find that the corporate communication department also has a say when it comes to such communication. Also, the branding of the organizations in terms of the stationaries. When you meet people with umbrellas that are written Britam, this is a branding, and it's the work that has been done, or it's the work that, it's the corporate communication department that is in charge of such work. When you meet people with t-shirts that are branded, or they have names of the institution, or even diaries, or even pen, you find, or even the caps, you find that this is the work of the corporate communication officers. And you find that these functions rely on the strategy that aims at meeting the company's goals as a whole. And when you talk about strategy, they are just guidelines. They are guidelines that are put in place to ensure that the governmental or the institutional goals are met, or they are followed to the latter. And you find that at the moment, at this point, when we are talking of the digital era, or when you're talking of maybe the 21st century, where we cannot, talk of organizations without talking of the internet, you find that the corporate communication has become more complicated. And you find that this is due to the flow of information, which is quickly done. The information, there are no boundaries. The information is virtual. It can reach people within some few seconds. And therefore, you find that even the issues of reputation, when it comes to dealing with the reputation, corporate branding, in terms of dealing with the image, the corporate communication department and the officers must be aware of the information flow in this digital era, and therefore they must look for ways to continue monitoring the online activities and also the online sharing of information. And to proceed with you find that the corporate communication officers communicate with different people. And these are the people that we call the publics. They are the audiences of corporate communication officers, or they are the audiences of the organizations. And you find, according to the, as it is demonstrated in the diagram, they can be divided into 4 categories. There is the producers, there is the enablers, there is the limiters, and also the customers. And when we are talking of the the producers, you find that, or when you're talking of the customers, to start with, you find that customers can be divided into 4 categories. As you can see, they are divided into 4 categories. There are those customers that are current, there are those that are secondary, there are those that are shadow, and there are others that are, there are those that are secondary, primary, or the others that are the current or the shadow, and also the others that are also referred as potential customers. And you find that with the primary customers, these are people who buys product directly from the institution. If I walked from here to the bid or company, or I walk to a company like, Safaricom, and an organization like Safaricom, and there are products that I want from those institutions, and I purchase them myself, I'll be referred as the primary customer. There's also the secondary customers. If I purchase the product from Bidco, and someone comes and purchases the same product from me, they'll be considered to be the secondary customers. And you find most of the time the primary customers are the wholesalers, and the secondary customers are the retailers and the consumers. When we get product from the supermarket, we become the secondary customers. But again, if we end up getting those products from the institutions where they are manufactured, we will be primary customers. They are also shadow customers. These are people who never buy the product from the organization and know everything about the organization's product. They know everything about the organization, but they never buys from the organization. There is also the potential customers. If a lot of publicity is done, they may end up purchasing the product either from the organization or get it from the wholesalers. And you find the second kind of the public, that is or types of publics who are addressed by corporate communication officer, or who get information from the organization, are the enablers. And enablers, they are the people who ensure that the organization continue thriving or continue existing. They ensure that there is conducive environment for the organization to continue thriving. Like the government agencies, they are the people who licenses the organization. The government licenses the organization and ensures that there is a favorable and suitable conditions, or the environment is conducive for the existence of these organizations. The media itself, and you find that the media can be an enabler and at the same time a limiter. And you find that the media not only relay information to the stakeholders, however, they can also provide information back to the organization. When you use the media to make some announcements, maybe there is an advert, there is a vacant, and you have used the media to announce the, for a position, a vacancy. You find at the end of it all, the media will be relaying the information. Maybe you are calling the society for a given cause. The media will relay the information, but again, they can provide information that is very necessary to the organization. Look at what happened during the pandemic, especially the first months of the pandemic. The media was used to relay the information about the mitigation measures, but at the end of it, you find the media provided information back to the Ministry of Health in terms of how maybe to deal with the situation, especially the issues that touched on the stigmatization. You find that those who are infected, they were stigmatized, and the media could even bring in counselors, they could bring in experts, they could bring in doctors who discussed the views, or who discussed maybe the issues that were there. And you find that the Ministry of Health was still getting a hint on how to handle with the issues of stigmatization, and on how to handle maybe the issues of distressed Kenyans who are there. Also, the media can be used for the purposes of mobilizing resources or stimulating volunteerism and donations in times of crisis. Maybe an organization has been involved in a crisis and maybe it has gone bankrupt. You find that the media can mobilize people to give out resources. We have seen, especially during drought and famine, where media has mobilized people to give back to those who are affected by the famine or affected by the issue that is there in the society. And you find, therefore, the media can act as an enabler in times of crisis. Like as per now, we all know what happened in a relationship to one of the Matatu Sacco that was involved in an issue that made one of maybe the passengers to lose her life. And you find that the media really mobilized people to an extent. Now the police and also the investigative unit had to come in and start doing the investigation in order to arrest the culprits. And that's why we are saying that the media can really stimulate actions. Also monitoring government and corporate giants for power abuse, exposing corporate issues in the society. And you find that the government, can monitor the government. If the government is not giving organizations a conducive environment, you find that the media can highlight these and call for actions within the country and also outside the country. The other thing you find that researchers suggest that practitioners should view stakeholders, including the media, as partners when managing a crisis. Whenever there is a crisis, we have seen the media really coming out, and also when there is no crisis, also the media comes in as a, as a great stakeholder in terms of making an organization visible, in terms of publicity. Also, other enablers are the opinion leaders, where an opinion leader gives good views or gives positive information about an organization. It can, it can mobilize people, or it can mobilize publics to continue maybe enhancing the existence of one's organization. Also, there is the promotion and marketing organization. They are also organization that helps in ensuring that the other organizations or corporates are well known in the society. But again, you find that there are other publics who are known as the limiters, and media is one of them in terms of, especially when media has a particular interest or when it's subjective, especially during a crisis. You find that they can lead to a lot of panic, they can lead to a lot of haze, they can lead to a lot of pressure in the society and a lot of collective stress, if at all they are subjective. Also, you find that the media can stimulate and encourage political interference when they invite politicians and they set agenda that is not credible or give information that is not credible. You find that they can make maybe an organization not continue being successful. If at all, maybe the people who have been invited, they are giving information that is not credible about the organization. But again, you find also the opinion leaders can act as a limiter. We saw it some time back when one of the opinion leaders said that we should migrate from Safaricom to Airtel. We should not continue using products that are from Bidco and Brookside. And we saw it, and people migrated and they decided using the Airtel lines. And therefore, at the end of it all, you find that the opinion leaders can act as limiters if at all they are giving negative information concerning an organization. Also, you'll find that the media, for it to be a limiter, they can give information that is sensational, information that is not true, or they can exaggerate statistics and numbers, especially when there is a crisis or when there is an issue in organization, or when they interview people who are imposters or people who are not real in the society, or people who are not, people who will give information that is confusing. Also, you'll find that the government agencies be limiters in terms of sometimes you find that the government heavily fines some organization, and you find that these limits the organization from continue existing. Also, the competitors, you find that they influences the activities of the organization. And maybe to conclude, in terms of the publics, you find that they are producers and they enhances the production of the product. Like there's the financials, people who finances the activities and the operations of the organization. Also, they are suppliers. They'll supply products to the organization, raw materials to the organization, spare parts to the organizations, some installations to the organization, in order to ensure that production is proceeding on very well. Also, they are the sponsors. They are people who are able to come up and they sponsor the activities of the organization, maybe through funds, maybe through materials. You find that they are producers. Also, they are those who finances, and also apart from the financiers, also the employees, folks, and the producer, because they are the one who ensures that production is taking place. And to proceed with, we look at organizational culture, and you find that you know, culture is very interesting, and you find that you know, when we define the culture as per what we know it, you find that culture is people's way of life. And what we mean with people's way of life, it's, you know, we cannot be separated from the culture, how we conduct ourselves daily. And the same way, you find that there is organizational culture, the people's way of life as far as an organization is concerned. And you find that a scholar known as Alveson in 2012 tried to define what is organizational culture. And to him, he referred to organizational culture as the patterns of assumptions that are discovered. They are just patterns of assumptions that have been discovered, invented, and developed by a group of people in an organization. And they are learned. And once they are learned, they are incorporated in the activities of the organization. Also, Shane have looked at the organizational culture as the activities and the assumptions and the people's way of life within an organization, how people behave, how people act, how people live within an organization. And you find that these assumptions that has been developed and invented and you know, absorbed or even incorporated in the activities of the organization, they really influence the activities. They really influence even the motivation, the commitment, and also the communication within and also outside the organization. And you find that there's something that is known as, you know, learning when it comes to the culture. If I goes to a given culture, in a given organization, and I find that there's a way or there's a pattern of doing things, I'll end up learning and start doing the same. And therefore, you find that, you know, these organizational culture are learned, and it takes time before they are incorporated, and it's not something that is made by one person. Some other organizational cultures are consciously made, others are unconscious, and therefore you find that organizational cultures play a very crucial role when it comes to the motivation and the commitment of employees, when it comes to economic rewards, when it comes to the organizational communication, when it comes even to the healthy, you know, relationships within an organization. It's all founded on the organizational culture. And you find that healthy organizational culture is a plus for the stakeholders, shareholders, customers, management, and also employees. And you find for organization culture to continue enduring, socialization process is embraced. As such, new members have to be introduced, trained, or they can just observe and decide to incorporate what others are doing in their activities. And you find that for a long time, if these patterns have to be adopted, they have to be considered to be effective, or they have to be perceived to be effective for quite some time for them to be incorporated in the organization. And you find that the ways of life of the organization tend to affect the kind of communication that will be relayed to the stakeholders. And as you can see, there is levels of organizational culture, and you find that these levels of organizational culture has been highlighted by Shane. And Shane highlighted the levels of organizational culture into three. He tried to look at them into three levels. There is the artifacts, there is the espoused beliefs and values, and there is the underlying assumptions. And we'll look at one by one in terms of what they mean and how we can really view them when it comes to communications within an organization. And you find that to start with, we have the artifacts, and the artifacts, they are just visible organizational structures. and processes, and you find that at some point they are hard to understand or to decipher. And you find that when you talk of organizational culture in terms of visibility, or when we talk of a level like an artifact, you find that these are elements that we can see. When we look at maybe an organization, we can see. When we look at an organization, maybe we can hear these things. Or when maybe we look at an organization critically, we can as well feel these things. And a very good example, if you just walk into a petrol station and you find people dressed in red shirts that have yellow, you are so sure that is a Shell petrol station. If you walk in another petrol station, you find people are dressed in blue and some red or orange kinda, you will make conclusion that this is Kobil based on the colors or based on how people are dressed. And you find that an artifact like a dress code really helps in identifying that is these people are working for Equity Bank, these are working for Absa Bank, these are working for Shell, these are working for Libya, these are working for Total, based on how they are dressed. Also, apart from that, you find that there is the color of the organization, the corporate color. If you just goes to a given bank and you find that you know, there is blue and white, you're able to tell this is a family bank. If you goes to another bank and you find that or another organization and you find that there is green, you know, you don't wait to be told that this is a Safaricom based on the color. And also you find things like logo. They help us in understanding this is a given organization like Mount Kenya University. This is an institution like USIU based on the logo that the organization has. Also, the organization have. Also, we have, you know, the layout, how the layout of the offices or the layout of the organization helps in understanding or making people understand this is a given organization. And you find also the other elements like how maybe employees address clients and each other, as well as the internal and external communication nature and flow, maybe slogans, maybe leadership practices and technology. These are things that we can see. And that's how you'll end up saying that employees from maybe some organization, they are too friendly, others are too rude, or they are not friendly, and we are able to tell based on you know, just looking at things, just observing, and you're able to tell that at the end of it all, these employees are very disciplined, these employees are very serious, they are creative, based on whatever you can observe. And the other level is the espoused values. And these are touches on the conscious goals. These are goals, strategies, and philosophies that are made consciously. You just make them consciously, not unconsciously. You just sit down, people sit down and decide this is the direction that we'll follow. These are the goals that we'll have. This is our mission. This is our vision. This is our philosophy as an organization. This is our aim. You know, these are done consciously. And people sit down. Our members sit down and reflect on the different opinions and then reach into a consensus that at the end of it all, as we are guided by production philosophy, as we are guided by product philosophy, as we are guided by giving back to the community philosophy. And that's why you'll find like a Red Cross. For them, they are guided by the giving back to the community, or the selling, the societal selling philosophy, because they are giving back to the community. It's not necessarily about making profit or gaining visibility in the society. For them, they are there to give back to the society. There is also other underlying assumptions, which is another level of you know, organizational culture, and you find that these are unconscious beliefs and values that form the culture or the core of culture in an organization. And you find that these are beliefs people use to make day-to-day decisions within an organization. For example, speaking when one has good idea, you know, it goes automatically, or it goes without saying. If you have a good idea, you're not supposed to, you know, to silent during a meeting. You can only express your good ideas. But again, you find that we do it unconsciously. If you don't have a good idea, we tend to keep quiet. But we do it unconsciously. It's not written somewhere. Only speak when you have good ideas and good points which are needful. You know, it comes automatically or unconsciously, not written or even documented. And you find that there are also other things when it comes to underlying assumptions, like assumptions of defining time within a group, time measurement, and time importance. It's not written in terms of which time is important, how time is important as far as work is concerned. Also assumptions about space, how it is owned and allocated in terms of the meaning of space around persons. You know, it shapes or it communicates a lot. You know, at some point, we create boundaries within maybe the institution, within some within the offices. But again, sometimes you find that it's not documented in terms of who we should be close to, who we should not be close to, who we should befriend and who we should not befriend. You know, it comes unconsciously on who will be our friends, who will not be our friends, who will disclose our issues to based maybe on the working setup. But you find that these are issues that are not documented. Also the issue of whether nature is good, bad, or can be perfected. You know, these are things that are not documented. And you find that Shane noted that there are 6 types of basic assumptions that from the pattern of every organization. And you find that assumptions on what is truth in social and physical matters. And you find that it helps in determining truth and reality. Like there is an assumption pertaining organizations' relationship within environments. We are supposed to understand the work and play, how much activity and passivity is allowed. You know, in terms of the relationship, at what time can, at what point can we joke with the other people? At what time can we be active? And you know, at the end of it all, it's not documented in terms of passivity and activity. Also, assumptions on the best ways in which people should relate with each other. How should we relate with our bosses? How should we solve conflict? How should we compete with each other? How decisions should be made? You find that it's not really documented, but it really governs the kind of communication that takes place in the organizations. And you find that to proceed with other types or there are types of organizational culture that has been highlighted. And in terms of them being highlighted, you find that apart from Shane highlighting maybe the levels of organizational culture like the artifacts and the espoused and also the underlying assumptions, and we have said that they really influences how communication will take place. Because if we are guided by maybe a given philosophy as far as espoused values is concerned, you find for us we will work towards achieving the goal that we have. We will work towards achieving, you know, even our communication will be touched on or will be attached to the goals that we have or will be attached towards the philosophies that we have. But again, you find that the other underlying assumptions that really influences what kind of communication will take place and how communication will take place internally and also externally. And you find that in terms of how close people or maybe an organization is, how close the organization is with a given sponsor or with a given financial, you know, you find that communication even will be totally different in terms of how to reach them. And that's why we are saying that, you know, there are also other underlying assumptions. Even the artifacts really influences how communication will be done. But again, you find that there are also other types of organizational culture that has been highlighted in terms of clan, adhocracy, hierarchy, and also the market. And you find that these types of organizational culture tend to influence how communication takes place within an organization. And you find that the framework that we have seen above divides organizational culture into 4. clan culture, the adhocracy, the market culture, and also the hierarchy culture. And you find that according to Cameron and Quinn in 2011, they say that successful organizations are those that are able to manage the competition between cultures while initiating necessary, or when they are communicating with each other, they are able to manage the competition between the different types of cultures. And we'll start by looking at the clan culture. And as the word is in terms of clan, when you're talking of clan, we're touching on the collaboration in terms of where people work as a teamwork, or where people work in teams. And you find that the members of an organization are seen as a part of one big family who are active and involved. And you find that the leadership of the organization takes the angle of mentorship. Thus, the organization is bound by commitments and traditions of the organization. The values are rooted in consensus, teamwork, and communication. And therefore, you find even the communication within an organization, it's very efficient, and communication is flowing very well because people are like one big family. They are working in team, they are working in consensus in terms of agreement on which direction to take, in terms of which objective to follow, in terms of the criteria to follow. And you find that if the leadership is more of mentorship, even you can imagine the relationship between the employees and also the leadership of that institution. And you find that there are some organizations that will take the clan culture, and you find that there's a lot of teamwork, there's a lot of consensus, even in those meetings, in those conferences, in those activities. There's a lot of consensus and a lot of communication where people will communicate different ideas. Also, there is the adhocracy culture, and you find that this culture is founded on creativity, and employees are encouraged to be risk takers, and leaders the champion innovations and leaders to champion innovations and entrepreneurship. And you find that the organization is based on a lot of experimentation and freedom of activity. And you find that the core values are founded on change and responsiveness. And therefore, most of the communication will be more of creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, and people who are creative and people who can innovate, they are required in such organization. And you find that at the end of it all, most of the communication will be founded on change and a lot of responsiveness and a lot of creativity and a lot of innovation and a lot of, freedom and creativity. People are given that freedom to innovate, and therefore you find that even if communication is made to external publics, it will be more of innovation. It will be more of the milestones that touches on the innovations that has been there in the organization. And you find that with such culture, value-added exchanges are witnessed. In terms of a lot of value exchanges, you really want to do a value-added exchange. Even if I'm to communicate with a sponsor, even if I'm to communicate with a given stakeholder, at the end of it all, there must be the value. And you find that the organization tries to understand, present, and tries to understand and present the future needs of the consumers, and through creativity and innovations tries hard to meet their present and future needs. And therefore, as much as the organization is communicating, they'll be communicating with regard to how they can better the lives of the consumers better than the competitors who are in the market. There's also the market culture, and it's founded on the dynamics of competition and also achieving concrete outcomes. Even the type of leadership that is in these organizations, you find is tough and demanding in such a way that the organization is there to maximize profit and to deal with the competitors, and therefore they'll try all their best. Each communication, they are doing it for the purposes of beating the competitors. And you find that these organizations are driven by market share and profit. And you can imagine every time that they are communicating, or every time they are advertising the organization, they'll do it to beat the competitors. There is also the other type of culture, the fourth one, which is the hierarchy culture. And you find that this is founded on the structure and control. And you find that the working environment is more formal with the strict procedures in place for guidance. And leadership is based on organized coordination and monitoring, with culture emphasizing efficiency and predictability. And you find that the processes are regulated, even in terms of communication. It's regulated. There are standards and also systematic ways in which communication is done. Unlike in other cultures like the clan culture, where there is no defined hierarchy in terms of communication, but you find here communication is hierarchical. So you find that at the end of it all, even the communication is more formal. There are procedures that are followed when it comes even to the communication itself. And lastly, we'll look at the philosophy. And you find that, the growth and sustainability of each organization is dependent on the communication aspect. And you find that an organization communicates its vision, beliefs to both the internal and external publics with the desire to have good relationships, or with the desire for the organization to continue existing. But you find that communication is a crucial procedure that should be geared towards the wants and also the ambitions of its target audience. And you find that, communication can help in understanding the beliefs and the visions of the organization. And you find that organizations' philosophies are the essential distinguishing and lasting values to an organization. They are just values that last, or they are just distinguishing values of an organization. And you find that they are just beliefs that are essential to an organization, and every organization have their own beliefs, and they really influences the communication that will take place, and they really influences even the operations that will take place. And you find that the philosophies or these beliefs that are essential to the operations of an organization, you find that some scholars will refer to them as marketing philosophy, like Kotler. But you find that those who are in the field of communication or the corporate communication, they'll call them philosophy. But you find that at the end of it all, they really influences the kind of communication that takes place in the organization. And you find that there are 5 philosophical concepts, or the philosophies that influences the communication of an organization. And number 1 is the production philosophy. And when you talk of the production philosophy or the concept, you find that the concept revolves around the understanding of the dynamics of the product. And when you're talking about understanding of the dynamics of the product, you find that, it's not all about showcasing the qualities of the product or maximum features of the product. You find that the organizations are not necessarily in communicating about the features of the product. They are there in terms of producing this product in quantity and producing this product in volumes for the same customers. And you find that these organizations are aimed at maximizing profitability by exploiting the economies. And when they are exploiting the economies, for them they'll just produce product in quantity, and they'll not mind about the quality of this product. But what they mind about is the quantity, and you find that these products are sold at a low cost. And you find that such organization will major in massive production of the product, and you'll find that the distribution will be done in large quantity. But again, you find that these products are available and inexpensive. And we have seen organization or even managers are focusing on such philosophy or concept, and therefore whenever they are communicating about the organization or the product that they have, they always communicate about the availability of the product and how cheap the products are. And we have seen it especially with organization like what Sawa does, the Sawa company. For them they produce a Sawa in quantity, those soaps in quantity, together with Menengai in quantity, and you'll always find these soaps. They are available in every shop. They are available in every market. And therefore, for them, you find that they'll assume that the customer are primarily interested in product availability and low prices. And therefore, they'll communicate, and as they communicate, you'll hear of words like affordability and also availability. There is also the product concept, which is totally different from production. And you find that this concept or philosophy is founded on, the quality of the product. And therefore, you find that whenever such an organization is communicating, they are convincing the customers to buy products that are of quantity, of quality. And when they are communicating, they are not communicating for everyone. They are communicating to satisfy the customer's need, but also those customers who have been esteemed or who have been considered, or who, after the analysis in terms of the target audience, who are potential buyers. And we have seen such organization will always communicate about the quality, the performance, and the features. And you find that such communications will talk about the quality, the performance, and also the innovative features of these products. You will never find, Jade collection. Jade collections shops, they specializes with clothes, but you'll never find them, really talking about how cheap the clothes are, but they'll talk about the quality of these clothes. And you find that they are not just targeting everyone, because unlike other places where you can get a shirt with 200 or 300, it's unlikely to get a shirt at Jade Collection at 200. And therefore, you find that they are not really targeting everyone. Look at what happens even between maybe Toyota Cars Company and those that deals with cars like Audi. You find that, or even Bugatti, you find that Bugatti and Audi, they'll talk of quality, performance, and features. But again, at the end of it all, you find such communication will be touching on the quality, performance, and features. And such communication will be geared towards a lot of innovations and a lot of innovativeness. There is also the other philosophy, which is the selling concept or the selling philosophy, and this lies in the ideology of product selling as well as getting it to the consumer. And you find that as a result, the organization tend to make anything for the customers, or they tend to make anything for the consumers. As such, they convince buyers to use language and psychology to get them persuaded. And you find that it is organizations' orientation that holds if consumers and businesses are left alone, they will ordinarily not buy enough of the products. And therefore, you find that such organization with their communication, they'll try to, to jog around with people's mind as far as language is concerned and also psychology is concerned, in order to get people buy. And for them, they'll go with the philosophy that if people are left alone, they'll not buy. And you find that the organization, therefore, they must be aggressive in their communication in order to promote and to sell their product. And you find that for them, they assume that customers are typically, they should not be left alone. If they are left alone, they will be disinterested. And you have seen also organization participating in promotional activities and selling product or communicating about product through exhibition. When they are not having exhibition, they have promotional activities where they're giving offers, they're giving coupons. Also, apart from that, they are advertising, just because they are founded on the selling and promotion activity. Also, there is the marketing concept, which is geared towards promoting, selling, and distributing a product or service to customers. And you find that as such, customers in this concept are crucial. The customers are crucial, or they are very important. And you find that the goal of these philosophy is to, to control the perception and the behavior of the consumers in terms of changing their behavior. And you find that all marketing activities, even the integrated marketing communication, like the advertising, the road shows, the promotions, the door-to-door marketing, even the online platform advertising, you find that in such a philosophy, the organization will be key on the integrated marketing communication communication and also the marketing activities, look at what Safaricom does. As much as they'll fall under the societal marketing concept and also the selling concept, the marketing concept, you find that at the end of it all, Safaricom will communicate via TV, they'll communicate via road shows, they'll communicate via promotions. For outdoor, you'll still find billboards, you'll still find people selling their lines coming to our places where we reside or even our workplaces. They'll also do direct selling, they also do promotions where they give offers, where they give, you know, they have different ways of communicating to the audience. You'll still get these activities online, and therefore you find that the selling or the marketing activities or the marketing philosophy is founded on the marketing activities and also the integrated marketing communication. And you find that they are used to aid in marketing, and you find that there's a lot of campaigns and a lot of product awareness. And a very good example to look at is Safaricom. There is also now the last philosophy of organizations, or another philosophical concept that organizational communication is founded on, and you find that this is the societal marketing concept. And you find that this lies on the ideology that organization has not only to make profit but also to give back to the community. And you find that this concept holds that organizations' task is to determine the needs, the wants, and also the interest of the target market, and to deliver the desired satisfaction to, you know, these consumers or these publics efficiently than the competitors. And also apart from that, you find that the organizations are there to enhance the societal well-being of the consumers. And you find that, you know, as much as we are talking of the wants, the consumer's interest, and also the welfare of the society, this concept looks at it, it's the obligation of the organization to give back to the community. And we have seen such organizations where their communication is geared and also founded on the activities that touches on the CSR. Look at what a Red Cross does. Apart from what a Red Cross does, you'll find even KCB, they have, you know, football. You know, they are sponsoring football. You'll see even KCB or the Equity Banks, Wings to Fly. And therefore you find that these are also another philosophy that influences how communication will be done whenever there are activities. But again, as I conclude, you find that every organization, for it to exist, it must communicate, or communication must be done. And you find that this communication must be efficient. As much as we are talking of organizations, they must communicate to different publics. And as we have seen, at the end of it all, you find that this communication is guided by the culture of an organization, how this organization, you know, operates, or the way of life of this organization. And also apart from that, you find that these cultures can either be material or even non-material, and you find that the influences how communications will be done and what kind of messages should be expected. And also the philosophies, the beliefs and the values of an organization really influences whether the organization will focus on talking about the product, or will focus on talking about maybe the features of the product, or the organization will focus on advertising the product or communicating more about the product in different platforms, or the organization will focus on maybe talking about how they give back to the community, and they leave the side of the product in terms of the how product is, in terms of the quality or the quantity and the volumes. But at the end of it all, communication should be done efficiently, because at the end of it all, the communication that is in the organization will influence the organization's reputation and also the image, and will determine its success. And that brings us to the end of our today's lesson. Thank you for being part of our class. Thank you, and God bless you.